In 1980, the ground beneath Jerusalem shook. It wasn't an earthquake, it was dynamite. A construction crew in the Talpiot neighborhood was clearing rock for a new apartment complex, and in their haste, they used too much explosive. The blast didn't just shatter the limestone, it cracked open a seal that had remained airtight for 2,000 years. When the dust settled, the workers peered into the darkness of the newly exposed cave and saw shapes emerging from the gloom. They saw 10 stone boxes, ossuaries. To the untrained eye, they looked like standard burial chests from the Second Temple period, but to the history of the world, they were a smoking gun. What happened next is a matter of public record, though it is rarely discussed in the open. The Israel Antiquities Authority was called in. The boxes were removed, the tomb was resealed and paved over with concrete. The world moved on. It wasn't until decades later that the inscriptions on those boxes were properly analyzed, revealing a cluster of names that defied statistical probability. Jesus, son of Joseph; Mary, Jose, Matthew, and perhaps most controversially, Judah, son of Jesus. The theologians argued about the names. The statisticians argued about the odds, calculating a 1 in 600 chance that this was a coincidence. But while the world was distracted by the writing on the outside of the boxes, a covert investigation was focusing on what was found inside them. Inside those limestone chests lay the remains of the most influential figures in human history. Not whole skeletons, but dust, bone fragments, and microscopic traces of marrow that had survived the ravages of time. This is where the story shifts from archaeology to forbidden science. When geneticists analyze ancient human remains, they are looking for specific markers. They look for haplogroups that tell them where a person came from, who their ancestors were, and who they are related to. They expected the DNA in that tomb to match the standard profile of first-century Judean peasants. They expected the genetic signature of a carpenter's family, but the rumors that have leaked from the laboratories suggest they found something else entirely. They found an anomaly. To understand the terrifying implications of this discovery, we must first look at the forensic evidence gathered from another controversial artifact, the Shroud of Turin. Whether you believe the shroud is the authentic burial cloth of Christ or not, the blood on it is real. It contains hemoglobin, bilirubin, and albumin. In 1995, a leaked report from a team of researchers who had access to the shroud fibers suggested a chromosomal irregularity that science cannot easily explain. A normal human male possesses an XY chromosome pair, the X from the mother, the Y from the father. The genetic material on the shroud, however, allegedly showed a perfect maternal X chromosome, consistent with a Middle Eastern lineage. But the Y chromosome was effectively silent. It showed data that did not match any known haplogroup in the human database. Standard science calls this degraded DNA. They say the sample is too old, that the data is missing. But there is another explanation, one that aligns with the ancient Gnostic texts that the Vatican tried to burn. If the man known as Joseph was not the biological father, then where did the Y chromosome come from? The Church says it was a miracle. Biology demands a source. This brings us back to the identity of Joseph himself. We have been told he was a simple carpenter, a man who built tables and chairs, but the original Greek word used to describe him in the Gospels is Tekton. A Tekton is not a woodworker. A Tekton is a master builder. In the esoteric traditions of the time, a Tekton was an initiate who understood the structure of the universe. If we view Joseph through this lens, his role changes. He wasn't just a foster father guarding a child. He was a biological guardian. He was the handler of a genetic experiment. If the DNA of the Messiah was a hybrid, half terrestrial, half something else, then it would be unstable. It would require a specific environment, a specific diet, and specific protection to survive in the dense vibration of this planet. Joseph's job was to ensure that the vessel did not break before the mission was complete. This rewrites the entire narrative of the virgin birth. It moves it from the realm of magic into the realm of advanced genetic engineering. The Holy Spirit, described in the Bible, may not have been a ghost, but a mechanism of transfer, a way to insert a non-human sequence into a human egg without breaking the biological laws of the species. This is why the Vatican fears the Talpiot Tomb, not because it contains bones, but because those bones contain the code. If scientists were to fully sequence the genome found in the Jesus, son of Joseph ossuary, and if they found the same introgression, the same alien marker found on the shroud, it would be the end of religion as we know it. It would be the beginning of the realization that we have been watched, guided and edited by forces we do not understand. The bone dust in that tomb is not just calcium, it is evidence of a breach in the human bloodline. And the fact that this tomb was found, silenced and buried under a concrete patio tells you everything you need to know about how dangerous this truth really is. They are not hiding the body of a man. They are hiding the blueprint of a god. If the DNA was the hardware, we must ask, where was the software installed? The Bible is strangely silent about the life of Jesus from the age of 12 to the age of 30. 18 years are missing. Historians call them the silent years. But biology tells us that you cannot simply become a Messiah overnight. You must be trained. You must be cultivated. The evidence points to the Qumran community, the Essenes, a sect of Jewish mystics who lived in the desert near the Dead Sea. The Essenes were obsessed with purity. They were obsessed with washing, with diet, and with the sons of light. But modern analysis suggests they were doing something far more pragmatic than praying. They were running a breeding program. For generations, the Essenes had been arranging marriages, tracking lineages, and isolating specific bloodlines. They were trying to breed out the error of the human condition. They were trying to create a vessel capable of holding the logos, the sheer voltage of a divine consciousness. Joseph and Mary were likely products of this multi-generational project. They were the culmination of centuries of genetic selection. This context explains the miracles not as supernatural acts, but as biological functions of a superior organism. Let us consider the blood itself. Hematologists know of a rare blood type called Rh-Null, or golden blood. It is the rarest blood type on Earth, possessed by fewer than 50 people today. It is a universal donor for the entire rare blood system. It can save anyone, but it can receive from almost no one. It is biologically isolated. It is alien to the rest of the human herd. If the non-human bloodline carried this specific trait, or a precursor to it, it explains the physical properties of the Messiah's body. A body that could heal others through touch, essentially transmitting a corrective biophotonic signal, but a body that was also incredibly fragile in this environment. But the story does not end on the cross. The Talpiot Tomb contained that one specific box that changes everything. Yehuda bar Yeshua, Judah, son of Jesus. If this inscription is authentic, it means the genetic anomaly was passed down. It means the non-human DNA did not leave the planet. It stayed here. It reproduced. This is the secret that caused the Roman emperors and later the popes to hunt down the desposini, the blood relatives of Jesus. In the 4th century, there are records of these family members being brought before Pope Sylvester. They showed their genealogy, they claimed their rightful place, and they were silenced. Why hunt a family for 400 years? You only do that if they carry something dangerous. You do that if their blood contains a code that can unlock the prison. Jan Val Elam and Gnostic theorists argue that the human body is a trap designed by the archons, the false rulers of this reality, to keep souls recycling in a loop of amnesia. But the Tekton bloodline was a hack. It was a Trojan horse inserted into the simulation. The DNA of the Messiah was designed to resist the memory wipe of death. It was designed to retain consciousness. And if that DNA is still circulating in the human population today, then the archons have a problem. There are people watching this video right now who feel a strange disconnection from this world. People who have Rh-negative blood, people who have low blood pressure, high intuition, and a feeling that they are waiting for a signal. Science calls these traits anomalies. The deleted Gospels call them the remnant. It is entirely possible that the hunt for the Desposini never succeeded completely. It is possible that the non-human markers are dormant in a percentage of the population, waiting for an activation signal. The discovery of the 13th Apostle's tomb was not an accident. It was a time capsule opening exactly when we had the technology to read it. The Vatican hid the texts. They burned the heretics. But they forgot that you cannot burn DNA. It replicates. It survives. The deathbed warning of Joseph was about the trap of the afterlife, but the non-human DNA is the key to the exit. We are not just looking at history, we are looking at our own potential future. The ossuaries are empty now, but the data has been extracted. The question is no longer, did they find him? The question is, are you one of them? Look at your own blood, look at your own life. The frequency is rising, and the biological lock is about to break. The 13th Apostle built the bridge. Now it is up to us to walk across it.